And welcome in again to our Lady Raider Report, brought to you by the DoubleTSportsNetwork.com. With Chuck Heinz, I'm Jamie Lent. Look back at a week where the Lady Raiders again stayed perfect. They went 2-0, now 6-0 on the season. Hopefully making steps in the right direction.
I think so. I think they wish they felt better about this 6-0. I mean, I think when you look at the victories over these teams, I mean, look, you haven't beat anybody that's really in top 25 contention, right? Or maybe even NCAA contention. And I think the thing that's been a little disappointing is how your offense has performed. And while you've had some good performances individually for some girls, I think overall, especially last Saturday against New Orleans, you really wanted to dominate that team. You really wanted to put 100 on that team. You wanted to go into this trip in the Virgin Islands feeling very confident about your team and your offense, and specifically almost every player on the team. And I got to tell you, they just were not happy with what happened on Saturday. Even though you win 78-70, they just weren't happy with what kind of production that you got, with the exception of a couple of people.
All right, so the two wins last week, and I definitely agree with what Chuck's saying there. Two wins last week. You take down ACU on Tuesday, 66-40, the final there. Adley Blacklock was just phenomenal in that game for the Lady Raiders. Chuck, 6 of 10 from three-point range, scores a career-high 23 points. She's really given this team a nice lift off the bench.
Oh, there is no question, and I think, like I said, you've had some individual performances, and twice she's been our player of the game, and earned it. But you're talking about a player coming off the bench. You're not talking about one of your starters. You played 6 games, and she's been one that's won twice, the player of the game. And then we had one this past weekend in Jalen Bristow, who coming off the bench has won player of the game. And so, you look at what you did against ACU, felt a little bit better about it. But again, that is a team that you should beat by 26 points or more.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did win by 26. So it felt like a game where you really played good defense, although you can say what you want about the offense being a little bit inconsistent. Defensively, really good in that contest, holding AC to just 40 points.
Absolutely. I mean, anytime you hold a team to 40 points, you're going to feel good. And Coach Gerlich said last Friday, she goes, look, hey, defense wins games, but offense sells tickets, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what they've been looking for, is this offense to kind of get kickstarted, where you feel like that. And one of the things that they want to do is, quote, play beautiful basketball. Well, you play beautiful basketball by not turning the ball over. I mean, I think against ACU, turned the ball over 27 times, like 14 in one half and 13 in the other half. And so, yikes is right. I mean, you only turn it over 14 times against New Orleans, but you got out-rebounded, you got outscored in the paint.
Yeah, so that 8-point win that Chuck mentioned against New Orleans on Saturday, Bailey Maupin, who didn't make a single basket on Tuesday, comes back with a great performance, 20 points for her. Jalen Bristow off the bench with 17. That's one of the girls that I'd kind of mentioned a few times that I thought would start playing a bigger role for the team. It was great to see her get going.
Absolutely, and Coach Gerlich had a conversation with her on the bench after practice on Friday, and then in the media availability on Friday, I asked her, okay, so who would you like to see step up? And she says, or come out, and she's like, well, actually 2. I want to see Danae Fritz involved in everything that she's doing, that we're doing, from an assist standpoint or scoring standpoint when she's on the floor. And she goes, I feel like that Jalen Bristow is a scorer that is capable on all 3 levels. Yep. And so I've really, trying to give her a shot of confidence. Well, man, give me that shot of confidence, because Jalen Bristow, she took that and did that and more with her 17 points, her 8 rebounds, her 2 steals, and 2 block shots. And we see with her, with the long arms and with the long legs and her ability to just scrap for the ball and rebound for the ball, Ben, she came to play on Friday or Saturday, and you need more of that.
Yeah, it's one thing to have a player that can score when you're running plays for her. It's another thing to have a player that can score when you're not running plays for her, meaning she can pick up loose balls. She can get offensive rebounds and putbacks. She can get steals and make things happen that way. And Bristow, with her length, like you talked about, is really one of those girls that I feel fits into that category. Yeah. And so to have a kind of junkyard dog like she kind of plays doesn't mean she can't run an offense and score within an offensive set. But the fact that she can get you some cheap buckets a little bit really helps offensively.
Yeah, she had 4 offensive rebounds in the ball game, and then she drew 4 fouls as well. Yeah. And I think the other thing too is that she does some things that you don't see in the box score, like she knocks the ball away,
Tip passes.
and then it allows somebody else to kind of get the ball, or it allows somebody to get back defensively, and they don't get as good a shot off, and then
Sure.
you get a rebound. Well, you don't see what Jalen Bristow did in the backcourt or as they get it across the half-court line. And then the other thing is she's got this ability to kind of lean down and secure the basketball. So I think it looks like she's got strong hands as well. So I don't want to just like go off on one game, but it was great to see her because that's why you brought her to Texas Tech from Iowa State.
That's kind of what we've been asking for, and hoping for, that she would take that
Right.
step forward. And it sounds like Coach Gerlich was asking for the same thing.
Right, and saying, hey, you can do this.
Yeah, seems like that
And
worked.
then going back to Maupin, yes, she was 6 of 11 from the field. So you needed Bailey Maupin to be Bailey Maupin, okay?
Yeah.
You don't win the ball game on Saturday without what Jalen Bristow did, but you needed Maupin to be Maupin. And that's what we're looking for. And we're really looking for some of that from Jazz Shavers, too, because she was 1 for 7 Saturday against New Orleans from beyond the arc. So you've got to get more out of Jazz Shavers.
Sure, no doubt about it. Now, on the negative side of things on Saturday, the fact that we talked about ACU on Tuesday, you give them just 40 points. On Saturday, you give up 70 points.
Right.
Okay? And that's, again, this is a New Orleans team that's 0 for on the season. So clearly defense wasn't a strong suit on Saturday.
Man, they had a quick guard, Alexis Calderon. I mean, she was as quick a guard as we're going to see. I mean, and she only had 8 points, but she was like 6 for, she was like, 3 for 3 for her first 6. I mean, they were 6 for 6 for the first 6 shots. Then they also got to the free throw line a ton. They were 15 of 16 from the free throw line and scored 40 points in the paint. You could not stop them in the paint. I think one player stopped them in the paint, and that was Bird Martin for the brief time that she was in the ball game because she was able to get back. But you had no answer. There was just time after time after time where they were driving the boulevard and nobody getting in front. So that's got to change as you're moving forward because the competition gets tougher this week.
Unfortunately, that's something we've seen since game 1
Absolutely.
of the season. Where
Absolutely.
Somebody is getting beat off the dribble on the outside. The help side defense, the sliding over, whatever, has not been there good enough for this Lady Raider team, and that's something they desperately need to improve on. So after the 2 wins, you are now off to the Virgin Islands this week, and the Lady Raiders will play 3 games there. They'll play Thursday at 7 against Florida State. Florida State's 5-1 on the season. They lost by 9 to Illinois. They're coming off a big 24-point win over Florida. On Friday, you'll play the Zags of Gonzaga, 7 o'clock. They're 4-2 on the year with bad losses to Stanford and Cal. They just beat New Mexico on Sunday, 81-68. That's a team that you had a little trouble with, beating them at home. And then on Saturday, they'll play Missouri State at 4:30. Missouri State's 3-1. They have a loss to UT Martin on the year. So, Chuck, I mean, first, without even talking about the opponents, heading into these matchups on the road in the Virgin Islands, what are the things that Coach Gerlich is probably feeling like, hey, we got to get some things figured out before we get there?
You got to figure out how to score because Florida State's averaging 100 points a ball game.
Wow.
Okay, they have 5 players that average in double figures. Okay, so you got to figure out, okay, we're going to have to play some defense.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. But and Florida State holds their opponents to 64 a game. Now, it's not like they've played, a roster of NCAA tournament teams either, because they haven't. But the point is, they've taken care of their business against those.
They've made bad teams look bad.
They've made bad teams look bad, and
Yep.
that's what you haven't done yet here. We haven't made bad teams look bad yet. Defensively, you played pretty good. So we'll see if you can if that defense travels, okay, all the way to the Virgin Islands. Hopefully everybody gets on the plane, right?
Okay. So is Florida State heading into the weekend probably the toughest matchup?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, you get them first on Thanksgiving
and
night?
then I think it's going to go Florida State, Gonzaga, and Missouri State. I think it's going to bing, 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 okay? But I think you start with the toughest at the beginning. And look, you want to win all 3, but man, if you could take 2 or 3 over the weekend. Now, if you win the first game, obviously you're going to get greedy and go, hey,
Sure,
I want to win all 3.
3.
But I think you're realistically going, okay, how can we figure out how to do this? And, as far as Gonzaga is concerned, they're averaging 70 a game. Now, they have a loss, like you said, at Stanford. They have a loss to Cal. But they did beat New Mexico the other night. At New Mexico, 81-68. And that's impressive to do that.
You played New Mexico here, and it was a much tighter game playing them at home. So, I mean, apples aren't always apples in that regard. But you can see they're definitely a talented team as well.
So it looks like also that Jordan Merritt is getting stronger because she's been starting in place of Jada Wynn. Jada dinged up a knee at one point in time and then had a foot stepped on that kept her a little sluggish, a little slower this past week as she played 12 minutes on Saturday. And it looks like Jordan's kind of coming into her own a little bit, and you need her to...
She just does so many things well.
Yeah, and you need her to find her shot. And then if you could get Sarah Sonogo to be kind of more consistent, and really kind of what's really frustrating is you're missing a lot of shots in the paint, okay? And part of this is either A, not taking enough time, and feeling like you're rushed, and so you feel like you've got more pressure on you than you should have. And then, two, just missing wildly, especially Sonogo and Jordan Merritt. But I think the other thing that we saw on Saturday was you saw Maya Pete and what she can do physically inside. And she's not afraid to throw an elbow. She's not afraid to take a step and make a move. And she's not afraid to kind of mix it up. And she can get up and down the floor because she played 15 minutes and she got a couple of rebounds for you. And she drew 4 fouls and she scored 5 points. Problem is she also committed 4 fouls, okay? Mm-hmm. But she's the first time that you kind of had a true big that has the ability to play, 15 to 20 minutes of basketball. And if you can get something like that out of her, then I think that's really going to help you, along with what Sonogo can do, because she's the shot blocker, and I think she can be a shot maker. She's just got to find herself. Yeah,
that's two girls there that you have just basically asking them, hey, on any given day, we need a little from you, or maybe one day one's playing better than the other, and they're going to get more minutes. But at least you have legitimate threats in the post, where you really haven't had much of that the last few seasons.
And then I feel like that if you can get Maupin, I feel like if you can get some of these other girls to score, like a Bristow or a Fritz or even Sonogo or even Pete, then that's going to open up other better shots or better looks for Jasmine Shavers and for Bailey Maupin, because you need them. Because 35 of your 78 points on Saturday were off the bench.
Yeah.
So that's probably too many.
But it speaks to the depth that you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just about those two.
It is.
And that you have other girls that can do it as
you just want you want Maupin and Shavers to be not at 10 and 17. You want them to be at 17 and 17 or 20 and 20.
I think there's something said for when superstars play well, it relaxes everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so if those are the stars, the experienced players on this team that have been through these battles in the Big 12, they give confidence to the rest of the team when they start out hot and kind of relax everybody. So that's another reason why those girls are so important.
And I think one player that we have not talked about, and she's been a player of the game too, is Logan Johnson. I think she is your toughest player on the team. And I think if she could just shoot the ball just a little bit better, she could be a real asset. I mean, she already is a real asset because she's not afraid to dive for loose balls. She's not afraid to mix it up. She's not afraid to get rebounds. Scrap her. Yep. You just need her to make some shots. Yeah. But when you need some energy, you can put Blacklock in and you can put Logan Johnson in, and those are things you've not been able to do in the past.
Yeah. Again, back to the depth that we've talked about there. So definitely a big trip this weekend for the Lady Raiders. It feels like your toughest competition by far up to this point. So that's good. I mean, at a certain point, you got to figure out who you are.
Right.
Got to figure out where you are as a team and a program. These road trips early on in the season for a team, important just because it's the first time you've traveled. You have so many new players on this team. So to figure out how all of that goes and to see how a team handles themselves playing in
3 games in 3. I mean, you're playing 3 straight days.
Yeah. All of those things. All of those things are important. So you're going to figure out a little bit. I feel like this week, and it may not all be positive, but at some point you got to figure it out.
Oh, and the other thing too, it may be good just to get away from home. Right?
Sure.
Maybe just good to get away because you're going to come back in December and you're going to play at SMU and then you're going to play at Arkansas in the same week and then you're going to start Big 12 play, the first of the year.
Yeah, you're going to start really testing yourself. Mm-hmm. So maybe haven't done that as much so far. So we'll get to see some of that this week and we'll learn a lot about this team. I don't think there's any doubt about that. All right, that's our Lady Raider report for today. Thanks for joining us. And again, you can check out all the episodes at doubleTSportsNetwork.com.